Okay, to Quebec now, where the government will not tax the unvaccinated. That decision today, a month after Premier François Legault said he would. Legault says he's worried about the reaction the plan has been getting online.
I have to make sure that I protect the health of Quebecers, but I have also to protect the peace in our society. Solidarity is part of our values in Quebec, and I want to protect that. And I was seeing since a few days, maybe a week, that I don't like to see the Quebecers divided like we're seeing since about a week.
The CBC's Sarah Levitt is in Montreal. So, Sarah, that was the premier there. I mean, how are they really explaining themselves today?
Well, you know, David, it's not entirely surprising. Let me just take you back to January 11th when this was first announced. Now, we got no details as to how this would work, how much the tax would be, who would be taxed specifically, first dose, second dose, or what have you. And theories abounded as to why the premier had announced it when he did. And the first theory was that because the day before, the public health director, Horacio Arruda, tendered his resignation. So, you know, you want to move the needle, change the subject, what have you. The other theory is that it's a trial balloon, and that trial balloon really did pop because the reaction was fast and furious. There was a lot of negative reaction to it from an ethical standpoint to a legal standpoint, and now it's over before it even began. And the premier, as we heard, citing division, saying that we should be building bridges. He wants to have social cohesion. Those are the reasons that he's saying he is now walking back this idea of taxing the unvaccinated. Okay, so he's walking back on that one. But the premier's announcement today also came with a further easing of restrictions. What's next to reopen in Quebec? Yeah, so we've been slowly opening over the past few weeks. Yesterday, for example, restaurants reopened at a 50% capacity with limited seating, and private gatherings were also allowed again with 4 people or up to 2 households. But the latest announcement today from Premier François Legault is that gyms will open in 2 weeks' time, and that sports activities for adults will also be allowed again. And this is all part of their strategy. They've said, the government, repeatedly since the end of the Christmas holidays, that we're easing into these opening up of society. So as of Monday, for example, cinemas and theaters will open at 50% capacity. Meanwhile, the premier has said all along that he's not afraid to have to go back and close things. He says he's done it before, and we have seen it several times throughout this pandemic. And so obviously they're checking the situation with COVID-19 in the province. And if situations should change, they will reverse course and go back to restrictions. But for now, a slow easing into what you would maybe call normal life in this pandemic, at least.
I don't know if the word normal has any meaning anymore, Sarah, but hopefully we can get there soon. All right, Sarah, thanks so much to CBC's Sarah Levitt. Well, some critics accuse Premier Legault of making decisions based on polling, not on science. The provincial Liberals, in fact, predicted Legault would back down on his tax the unvaccinated plan.
What's at the end will be the results. If it's the result to get to 95%, they should share with us all the information. They should share with us all the information and to work together to attain this objective. So I'm expecting that the government in 2 months, they will say to the people that I tried to do something, but again, I lost my measure.
Okay, so we invited the Quebec government to come on the show to discuss this reversal. That request was declined. Dominique Anglade is the leader of the official opposition in Quebec's National Assembly. She joins us from Quebec City. Ms. Anglade, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, David.
I want to start with your reaction to Premier Legault backtracking on his plan to tax the unvaccinated. Do you think he listened to your party, or do you think there were other factors in this?
Well, basically, Premier Legault decided to use politics of division in order to hide the fact that he lost complete control of the pandemic. We have to put that into context. He announced that idea when the public health director had resigned, quote unquote, and that the pandemic was totally out of control. So he just pulled this idea out of a hat. Again, politics of division in order to hide his lack of competency.
Okay, so he's back down on the unpopular, or controversial at least, I don't know if it was unpopular, tax on the unvaccinated, but the Premier did say today that the province has set up teams to identify neighborhoods in regions of Quebec where the vaccination rate is the lowest, and that teams will be going door to door to offer at-home vaccination or to encourage people to make an appointment. A more positive-based approach. Is that a good move? Is that the sort of thing you've been calling for?
Well, this was something that was proposed months and months beforehand, and at the end he's realizing that it's not working, that the polls are not giving him what he wanted to do. That's why he's bringing all those ideas. But the reality of things, again, whenever he's in trouble, he uses the politics of division in order to hide what he's not been able to deliver to the population. This fifth wave management is a complete disaster.
So what would you do differently right now to encourage more people to get vaccinated? If not the stick of the unvaxxed tax, what would you do?
A number of things I would do. The first one is focusing on the schools, mobile clinics that can really support different schools that are facing a low number of vaccination, but also, and we announced this, 5 elements that we wanted to bring forward. When you talk about easing the restrictions, we want to see plans. We want to see supply plans for rapid testing, for the ventilation in schools. I mean, a number of things that would need to be put in place. What he's doing right now with easing the restriction is exactly what is done in the previous 4 waves, and that led us to the situation we're in today. He's just repeating the same mistake again and again, and that's why I think he would need to take a step back and explain to the population where he's headed, what are the criteria, how are we going to do the easing of the restrictions, and why we're never going to go back to this situation again.
This is the second time that Premier Legault has reversed himself. Last November, Quebec reversed its plans on mandatory vaccinations, a vaccine mandate for healthcare employees. What do these abrupt reversals do to public trust? Well,
it undermines, people feel that they cannot trust the government those decisions, and they really have a lot of questions. And there's been also a lot of confusion in the explanations of the Quebec government. So whenever he says something, can he really be trusted? Those are the questions that are being raised right now within the population. And that's why people are really fed up, because they always feel that something could happen, that it could shut down again, because they have no visibility to what the Premier is doing, no predictability.
You know, we've got a trucker convoy and a protest organized here that's shutting down Ottawa. There are reports that a convoy like that could be headed towards Quebec City, and the protest may take place in front of the National Assembly. Do you have any concerns about that? And do you think that may have played a role in Mr. Legault's decision to scrap this tax?
Well, first of all, let me say that it doesn't represent all the trucking industry. As you know, it is a minority that's demonstrating. And second thing, I was really shocked to see what happened in Ottawa when you see people demonstrating with flags, fascist flags, or demonstrating in a way that is extremely insulting to the history of our country. I think there are many things that are really not acceptable. So I really hope, if this should come here, that it's going to be done in a peaceful way, in a peaceful manner. As far as whether this has influenced Mr. Legault, what influences Mr. Legault is really his polls. So that's the only thing he's looking at when he makes decisions.
Well, you know, during his press conference today, just as a final question, he said several times that he doesn't want to divide Quebecers and that Quebecers need to remain united. I mean, did this proposal of the tax for the unvaccinated really cause deep divisions?
Well, of course it is a politics of division, but it's not only this particular tax. I mean, for his whole mandate, he's been dividing Quebecers among the English versus French. I mean, he's done this many times. He's the master in terms of dividing the population, and this is yet another example.
Okay. Dominic Anglade, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.